You're welcome again to this episode of Searching the Heart. We've gone through 3 episodes of x-raying the issues concerning human life and happiness. And this is the 4th episode of this very theme that we have chosen to pursue. As you grow older, maybe as kids, we never thought of these things. Maybe from an individual perspective, if you woke up in the morning and somehow you woke up in the night and you had a bad dream, we had an inkling towards that. If we had a fight with our brother or sister, yes, maybe the whole day became a bad day. And many of us still can resonate with this. But from a philosophical perspective, these silent thoughts can be explained, discussed, and actually visualized. And the main purpose of philosophy is to discuss these issues. Of course, you know the Bible is one of the greatest philosophical textbooks that has ever been written. And so we are continuing with this very topic. Human life, the pessimistic view of human life and happiness. How far can we go in looking into this? And we have looked at the Great Gamble Theory. Of course, we've done 2 episodes of the Great Gamble Theory, and today we'll be looking at the Lesser Gamble Theory. And the Lesser Gamble Theory has to do with not the person of Christ. The Great Gamble Theory is all about Christ as a person, as an individual, and is unique to him. But the Lesser Gamble Theory is all about we human beings. And last episode, I was able to look into the possibility of our choice. Well, if you ask some theologians, Calvinists, they will tell you that we have very little choice in the whole matter. But that impinges on the reality of the situation as we see it. And when you look at it from the angle of choice, freedom of choice, you wonder, is it possible that in our rejection of Christ in his first coming, we had done a great disservice to humanity? Remember that it was not just in his execution, but also after the resurrection. He chose to return to heaven for a reason. And if the earth had become softened up and more amiable to his person, is it possible he would have stayed? Or is it possible that he would have come a long time ago? You know, all these things are there because the Apostle Paul tells us that we bring the coming of Christ closer with our actions, with the way we live on this earth. So this opens the door for us to talk about the Lesser Gamble Theory. Okay, I made this up, coined from the Great Gamble Theory, to look at the role of human beings in their own destiny. Of course, we know that many people who are not believers or Christians would resonate with this because they believe that we are in charge of our destiny. But what is really our role? And we as Christians, we look at we are in between the Calvinists and the Arminians. What do we really believe? Do we have a role to play in our own destiny? How powerful is that role? I remember my old dad used to say, God has 99% and we have 1%. And at best he would say, God has 99.9% and we have just the 0.1%. So what do we do with that 0.1% if that is all we have? Okay? Of course, if you are a Wesleyan, of course you will have a perspective on that. What do we do with that 1% that we have to contribute? And a subtopic in this light would be the implications of a fully human Messiah. There are already philosophies on ground that have already talked about this. And one of those philosophies is from the Jews themselves, because following the Isaiah prophecy, the Jews believe that the Messiah will be a prophet. Of course, there's another part of that prophecy in the book of Deuteronomy, okay, where Moses is instructed to tell them that a prophet like himself will come, okay, and he will teach them, okay, and the criteria for that prophet will be that all his prophecies must come to pass. And so that is also a prophecy that is seen by many as a messianic prophecy. So what are the implications of a fully human Messiah? The Jews are waiting for a fully human Messiah to come, one who is from the line of David, okay, as promised. And also there are other people in the world who also believe in this. We know that the Buddhism is not a very theistic faith. It is also partly atheistic, and Buddhism also resonates with so many of the traditional religions out there. So what are the implications of a fully human Messiah? We will try to look at that a little in this very episode after the short break.
I hear your voice, you're saying come home, come home. I hear the trumpets, my heart rejoicing. I hear your voice, you're saying come home, come home. I hear the trumpets, my heart rejoicing. I hear your voice, you're saying come home, come home. I hear you calling, my heart is breaking.
Okay, so we are back. Now, the issues at stake is that there is an obvious scramble for hope, whether you like it or not. Some of us don't know this, but there is an obvious scramble for hope. Now, we will not know whether it's the prophecy of doom and gloom that come out of Christianity, or some of the prophecies that come from the scientists of climate change, of the possibility of an asteroid hitting the earth, that are creating some of these yearnings for hope. But there is a scramble for hope. And you can only see this when you are in the vantage position that some of us are. And in this scramble for hope, the poor are victims and the rich are sanctum. The poor are victims and the rich are sanctum. And what do I mean by this? You discover that the poor are known to bear the brunt of the search for hope. We are the people that are governed. We are the taxpayers. The poor must contribute in one way or the other. In every society, the government falls back on the poor to rejuvenate that society, and for the sake of mere governance. And the rich are actually the pillars, because they control the economy and every other thing associated with that society or that government. So the rich are seen as sanctum, even by the poor themselves. They look up to the rich. Everything they fall back to the rich. Oh, this person is going to be the person to rescue us from this. Oh, this person. I remember when Elon Musk was becoming very, very powerful and very rich. Every little thing, you turn on Twitter and everything, you say, oh, Elon Musk is going to do this. Elon Musk is going to do that. Elon Musk is going to do this. You know, and for me, it got a bit sickening. See, I felt, look, allow this guy to do what he's doing. He doesn't have to solve every problem. I also remember when the Gaza thing came up, and suddenly on the news it was like, Elon Musk. Did Elon Musk bomb them? No, he didn't bomb them. He shouldn't solve every problem. Okay? Elon Musk got into an argument with some of the people in Ukraine over Starlink. And for me, it was very embarrassing. You know, I'm not going to get into all those arguments, but, you know, it just goes to show that there is a lot of confidence, too much confidence in the rich. Okay? They seem to be the reason why some of us are alive. Okay? And so these are the issues. While in the real sense, we are the ones bearing the brunt of the whole thing. So these are the two things. And the other one, which is not a major thing because we don't all see it, is that any little thing that comes up, whether it is it even has the capacity to create wealth or not, even if it has the capacity to produce some kind of communal peace or not, people gather around it. People gather around it and begin to, you know, look to that thing for solutions. Okay? The city is one thing. People love to see a city coming up. They begin to go there in droves. The very urban setting is an example of this. So there is a very deep search for hope, a very deep yearning for an answer to the problems of life among the people. So you can see this very much in this century that we live in, and it is becoming so obvious. And the very terrible aspect of it is that even when the hope is in our hands, what we do with it does not show that we desire such a thing. Okay, it still talks about the lack of hope. That very kind of an irony, a cycle of irony, in which somebody who does not have the capacity to deliver is depending, you know, creates a dependent cycle of dependence. Okay, on something that does not have that very does not offer such a deliverance. And so this is what we see in this society that we are in. And because of this, we look up to the rich to solve those problems. And unknown to us, we are the ones that have those things in our hands to offer and to make the changes that are desired. We can go on and on, of course, the solutions. Of course, people have already talked about communal action, civil disobedience and all that, but we know where that is going. And some of those struggles are being sorted in some countries. In some countries, they are still dealing with some of those issues. I want to tell you that these things are not new. Europe has gone through cycles and cycles of revolutions. And that is why they have a legacy of democracy today. Okay, maybe in Africa we are still struggling with those things. But Europe, they are very conversant with those things. Issues of revolution is not a new thing to them. So the issue is that there is a technological gap that needs to be filled for a purely human intervention to succeed. Okay? If we are looking for a human messiah, of course, the need, the hope, the desire, you know, the yearning for a solution is there. But not everybody is a Christian. Not everybody accepts the solutions that Christianity offers. Okay? And whether we articulate it or not, the issue of the human messiah is on the table. Okay, and technology is one of those things that comes from a human source. So, but the technological gap that needs to be filled is very vast for a human intervention to succeed. What am I saying? You just need to look at the space race to know what I'm saying. It is so difficult just to launch a rocket out into outer space. Technology as a strength of civilization itself is just about 500 to 1,000 years old. The Industrial Revolution just started in the late 1800s, in the mid 1800s or so. And so it is a very new thing. Humanity took about thousands of years. I was very, very shocked to hear that some of the technology used by the ancient pharaohs is almost the same thing that was still used by the Romans. Okay, the ancient pharaohs had that same technology, especially that young Egyptian ruler. Okay, the same coat, the design of his coat of mail, it wasn't a coat of mail, it was made of leather, but it is the same thing. The chariot is one of the oldest inventions, but that is the same technology that was used by the Romans just about 2,000 years ago. The chariot is about 3,000–4,000 years old. Okay, so it took so much time for technology to really cut off and become such a thing that to revolutionize human society. So the gap, in order for a human intervention or a human messiah to succeed, the gap is very wide. I was listening to Rabbi Manis Friedman again, and he was talking about the Rebbe. And the Rebbe, though a rabbi, was talking about the viscosity of the desert sand. That before the Israelite soldiers could succeed, they needed to know the viscosity of the desert sand. You know, to show you the depth of scientific knowledge that is needed for humans to progress, even in the art of war. And so these things are very, very important. The Jews have suffered for 3,000 years. Why? Because they depend on a human messiah. They depend on a human messiah. So the gap is very wide. For a human intervention to succeed, the gap is just too wide. Okay? I'm going to take a break before we come back and we continue.
Discover a transformative journey into the kingdom of heaven. Following the initial publication, the author dives deeper with 2 insightful follow-up books. Ever felt disconnected from God even in worship? Explore how God's unconventional ways can transform your life. How can you align with divine plans, avoiding distractions? Find answers in The Kingdom of Heaven on Earth. And the 3 illuminating Christian truths and prophetic practices. Unlock profound insights guiding you toward a deeper connection with God. Don't miss out. Dive into this enlightening exploration today. Click the link on the caption to get your copy.
I'll briefly look at the 5 human needs proliferated that a human Messiah needs to solve. The 5 human needs. Okay? First of all, a Messiah has a global territory, a global scope. And of course, those human needs are global needs. So number 1 is fighting climate change. Number 2 is fighting poverty. Number 3 is stopping war. Number 4 is dealing with the issues as to identity politics, race, gender, woke virus, and all that. The woke mind virus, as most will call it. And then number 5, dealing with the issues as concerns human and sex trafficking. I'm going to start with this human and sex trafficking because it's the most vague one. Though it has been on the world burner for many years, most of the time people overlook it because sex is part of human existence. And of course, labor also is part of what human beings need to improve the economy. And because of this, the crimes that are associated with these are often downplayed, though they have really affected human society in very, very devastating ways, like the transatlantic slave trade and the slave trade that has been going on before that. And of course, that included sex trafficking, including sex in terms of war. So these are the things that such a Messiah has to deal with. Of course, we know about the current case for Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, and many people have said, okay, I mean, they've known Puff Daddy to be a notorious figure in the hip-hop world for very long, and find it strange that it's just now that he's coming out. Of course, there has been a wave of such issues, like from the Epstein case to Bill Cosby case to R. Kelly case, Weinstein, and all that. But before that, there was Tyson, there was Jackson, and all that. So all these things have been there, and so these things have to be dealt with, especially in this time where governments are beginning to clamp down on their citizens for economic purposes, and sex trafficking has become an issue, and you don't know the extent to which sex trafficking has become an issue. We're just scratching the surface. Now, climate change. Climate change is a scientific thing, and of course, it is a historical thing also, attributed to religion, attributed to God, but it's a thing that, of course, technology is beginning to look at very seriously. And of course, such a person must have a right worldview concerning climate change, and must be able to lead the charge to handle climate change, at whatever level. Of course, the problem also comes that most people, while looking at climate change from a scientific perspective, will want to do away with the religious perspective, and that may not be very easy to do. So these are the issues, okay? Identity politics. Identity politics is another issue. Tribe, religion, race, gender. These are issues that are really tormenting humanity right now. And of course, the West has taken a posture, okay? And the other block of humanity, call it the East or the South, has taken another posture. Okay, and so there is a conflict in these things. Identity politics. Do we accept protectionism? Do we denounce it? Do we accept heterosexual, bisexual behavior, or LGBT issues? How do we handle LGBTQ issues? You know, these are issues that we must solve, and these are at the basis of the success or failure of human civilization. A human Messiah must solve these problems without alluding to genocide or suppression of human beings. We know that these are issues that Jesus Christ faced, and he challenged those issues. He tried to handle those issues, and in trying to handle those issues, he died on the cross. And in the first version of my book, The Kingdom of Heaven, I brought one of these issues up: rape, the idea of rape. And many people, did not understand it, and they, decided to react very strangely at my hand, denying me the privilege of being an artist. Yes, and that was what went on there. Freedom of speech, that is another thing. Freedom of speech. And so these are the issues that the Messiah should handle, must be able to handle. War. We know Jesus comes to handle war. One of his first agendas, even in prophesying his coming, is the issue of war, because war in that time was the greatest challenge to human prosperity, the greatest challenge to human existence. And he came to make the nations to beat their swords to plowshares. Okay, he had the solution to war right with him, and that is why he died on the cross. He relinquished his power and showed weakness to bring us to himself. If I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. And this is the issue. Finally, poverty. And this is one issue that encompasses most of these other issues. Handle climate change, handle identity politics, handle sex trafficking, human trafficking. And if you don't handle poverty, you handle war, if you like. You don't handle poverty, you might have just begun. You might be brought back to square one. So poverty is at the core of so many of the challenges of human beings, and the Messiah has to handle poverty. And the thrust for many of our prospective human messiahs is, of course, economics. And they seem to be able to be given that position because they are economically stable. Okay? But we know that, of course, the reason why that may not also suffice is because wealth can be gotten through war. Okay, wealth can be gotten through emphasizing identity politics. Wealth can be gotten through destruction of the climate. Wealth can be gotten through human and sex trafficking. And so these issues themselves come in one package. All of them are combined in one package. If you can solve one, you must be able to solve all of them. And that is the challenge for a human messiah. And so when you look at it, you wonder, is it possible for a human messiah to come? Is it possible for a human messiah to come? And the answer, when looked at from the ordinary point of view, is no. It is a total impossibility. Because of these challenges, because of the the complex interaction between these five concepts: climate change, poverty, war, identity politics, human and sex trafficking. They are all intertwined. Okay? So you might have beaten the trap of poverty, and you may be able to feed every human being on the earth. Right now, Elon Musk is worth what? $250 billion dollars. He can do so much, but Can he really afford to do everything? That is the question. Can somebody who can do so much afford to do everything? That is the challenge. And that is why many of them just pick one thing and they do. Bill Gates is into philanthropy. Okay? As he's making his billions, he's giving power to charity. And he's helping small-scale enterprises to also establish themselves. Okay? Elon Musk also has a charity. And he's giving. And of course, in politics, he's just gotten into politics and he's given $1 billion to people who are signing the Constitution. The American Constitution. And he's into charity, and he argues that even the space, his involvement in the space and in renewable energy is targeted towards fighting poverty. So they can do so much, but they cannot do everything. Okay, go to your country. Which country do you come from? Name a billionaire or a millionaire from that country. They can do so much, but can they do everything? No. Okay, and this is the problem that we see happen. The governments of the world are trying their best, but right now you will agree with me that worldwide there is an uprising against many governments. And so this comes back to our question: how feasible is a human Messiah? We'll continue after this.
Discover a transformative journey into the kingdom of heaven. Following the initial publication, the author dives deeper with 2 insightful follow-up books. Ever felt disconnected from God even in worship? Explore how God's unconventional ways can transform your life. How can you align with divine plans, avoiding distractions? Find answers in The Kingdom of Heaven on Earth, and the 3, Illuminating Christian Truths and Prophetic Practices. Unlock profound insights guiding you toward a deeper connection with God. Don't miss out. Dive into this enlightening exploration today. Click the link on the caption to get your copy.
We have talked about all these things, and one of the important things that we've talked about is the human desire or search for hope. A lot of us are looking for hope. The problem is that we are looking for hope many times in the wrong places, and some of us go to the right place, but the problem is we think that we don't have any responsibility anymore, and we just go and just drop ourselves in that location, thinking that everything will be solved. And many times we accept help from the wrong sources. Okay, and those complexities always come up, and that is why we, the poor people, are always the victims, while the rich are seen as the solution. Okay, as the necessary evil, whatever evil they might be doing. So we must continue to look at the issues at stake. Individuals are there, they're important. Multimillionaires, billionaires, leaders of thought, they are always there and they are important. Nations are also important. Stability is important. That is why we need nations. And so we need to be active part of these systems to see how to criticize, to encourage, to participate, whatever we do. For engineers, let's work with them to make things better instead of destroy it. If we are administrators, let's work with them to make things better instead of destroy it. If we are just critics, let's do that in a constructive way. Okay? So I'm going to be looking finally, before I round up, at 3 very interesting events that are expected to come. And one of these things is the prophesied time of peace. It is believed by some biblical prophets that have read through the book of Revelation that there is going to come a time of peace. And what does that mean? That actually the human Messiah will come and he will succeed. Listen to me very carefully. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. There is going to be a time of peace. The problem is, when will that time come? Some people believe that it has already come and gone. Okay? And the Bible prophesies it. Okay? That it has already come and gone. There is the time of peace that will take place when the Jesus Christ returns. And that is the 1,000-year rule. And after the 1,000-year rule, Satan will be released again. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a time of peace that will come, and it is called the time of false peace. Okay? And this time is the time that says that the human Messiah will come and he will establish a government. And that is found in Revelation chapter 13. And of course, he will have three arms of government: the religious arm, the administrative arm, okay, and the spiritual arm. Okay? And so these three arms, okay, which is the 666, will play a very, very important role. And one will be ruling, the other will consolidate, that will be the power behind the throne, and the other will be the false prophet, which is the religious arm. And these three arms will work together to put humanity in a false time of peace. In that time, they will enforce the slavery and the destruction and killing of many people who know their secret and know that they are not the Messiah. Okay? That is the time of false peace. And some people debatedly say that we are already in that time, the time of the 666. I know many people who cannot work, cannot gain employment, no matter what they do. Okay? In this time. And this is one of the hallmarks of the 666. If you believe in Christ, if you've accepted Christ at any time of your life, you are marked out. You are cancelled. You are treated as non-existent. Okay? So this is one of the hallmarks of that government. Okay? It might have a religious face. Okay? And it might be very powerful and very rich. But it will persecute and destroy many Christians. That is the prophesied time of false peace. Okay? Many people will be enjoying themselves. We will have all the money. And money will be a thing. Because the thing is that if you don't have the mark of the 666, you cannot go and buy anything in the market. Okay? And so on and so forth. The second is the final war. There are debates whether this final war has happened or is still coming. And this final war will involve many people. Okay? The final war will take place when Jesus Christ himself has already come. And because he has already come, people will know that he is on the earth. And instead of just backing him, they will organize themselves. Okay, and they will attack him, and they will try to seize power from him. And this is the war of the Armageddon. Okay, Gog and Magog will come against Christ, and they will try to kill him. They will try to destroy him along with his followers. Okay, and this leads us to understand the third thing, and this is the spiritual dimension to world powers. One of the things that I've seen is that we are because of the strength of education, the strength of science, the strength of technology, many of us don't know the hidden spiritual dimension to world powers, whether individuals or nations. Okay, right now, the fear of the coming of UFOs. I've always tried to explain to people that for many temporal governments, there is no difference between a UFO and a hopeful coming of Christ. Okay, because the Bible explains the spiritual event, but it's going to happen here on earth. So there is no way of differentiating a UFO invasion, one, with some of the tribulations listed of beasts that look like scorpions and all that, and the final coming of Christ. Okay, so you need to understand that as you are right now, the government must know everything you are doing. If you claim to be somebody who is seeing spiritual things, the government has its eye on you. Okay, so there is a spiritual dimension to world powers. That is just the point. Okay, there's a spiritual dimension to everything. When somebody tells you he's an atheist, don't be deceived that he does not have clairvoyance. Okay, and you go and you drop your own clairvoyance and you say, okay, I'm an atheist. Well, you might be playing the fool's game. Okay, because that does not mean he doesn't have clairvoyance, but he has been able to explain that clairvoyance in temporal terms. Okay, so you must understand this. And though science and technology is a solution to human problems, you must understand that you must also understand spiritual truths and be able to have a balanced way of thinking as concerns these things. So these are the things that will determine the purported end times. Okay? And so what is my conclusion on this? So let me round up on all these things. While understanding this thing, I must round up properly, and I will round up by saying that the implications of a fully human Messiah are slim. They are very, very slim. And that raises an issue. We all are responsible. We all are responsible. And we are responsible to do our part to strengthen ourselves mentally because of the spiritual dimension of world powers, and also philosophically, so that we are ready for the events that are coming. Okay, this is very important, and that we can participate constructively. Many of us are not participating constructively. We are just tools in the hands of politicians, okay, who just look for temporal power. A lot of us are not helping one another because we put too much pressure on the finances and the well-being, the psychosocial well-being of others. We must not participate in systems like I have talked about necromancy that do this, that put pressure on others unjustly. The fact that you want to make a living, you should know that the other person too wants to make a living, and you should not overemphasize your own need to make a living above another person. Okay, and these are the issues that we must continue to look at. And in that light, we must know that human beings can scarcely solve our problem on their own, but we can collectively work together to make sure as many people as possible are ready. We have to understand with the search for hope among human beings why there is a dimming possibility of hope, is that it seems that, of course, the power is in the hands of the poor, and the poor are always there giving their taxes, buying from the rich, and all that, contributing. But there is a growing skepticism among them that the more they give, the more that wealth is going to be used against them. They don't benefit from the wealth. Okay, and I remember some of these things started in the church. People were wondering, we are creating mega pastors, and yet we are living in squalor, we are living in poverty. And of course, the reaction to that created some of the growing atheism we see today, or disbelief in the church as it is. But immediately the church was done with, we began to see the same thing in the secular world. It was like an opportunity for them now to harvest from the church and begin to, it was all about trade and all that. But at the same time, we are in a time when people offer services that don't work. Okay, electronic devices that have very short lifespan. Okay, or internet fraud. Okay, all sorts of things. And these are the things that are going on, okay? Business is failing, the economies are failing all over the world, not because of the church anymore, of course, and of course the witch hunting has shifted from the church back into the world. And so it is like the poor are not sure that whatever they give is going to be used well. And is the answer civil disobedience? Is the answer displaying corporate entities that are seen not to be giving back to the society? And we are seeing that there is a kind of an irony, there is a kind of a conflict of philosophy. The solution is not really there for everybody, because today's Messiah is tomorrow's tyrant. So these are the issues that we must continue to see. And that continues to lay emphasis to the point that the human Messiah is very far-fetched and creates this very not very optimistic view of human life and happiness. I am David Dunji Chinke for you today in Searching the Heart.